So with great love and respect, we're calling upon Cosmic Sai Baba for this day, which is the 3rd of December 2019. It is a Tuesday, and it is we're holding the meeting at Moss Vale, New South Wales, Australia. And so we're asking and welcoming Cosmic Sai Baba, who opens the door for us to be able to communicate with Andromeda M31. Oh, I am here, and I am very pleased to be here, my dear. Thank you for calling upon me. It always gives me pleasure to be able to come to introduce you and help you and hold the platform that links you, like a radio station, with Andromeda. I am correcting myself. Andromeda M31, and of course to Andromeda Val. So, without any further ado, I will call upon her. She has been waiting, and we will welcome her here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am Andromeda Val, and I am very pleased to be here. I really enjoy coming and taking this opportunity to speak to the humans in the galaxy of your Milky Way. I enjoy coming. And there is nothing much I can say more than other times I have been here, except I know I am welcomed, and I appreciate that and enjoy the opportunity to answer questions. But for the moment, I would like to make a greeting in my voice or my language from Andromeda and the part of that galaxy that we live and come from, which is the Andromeda race that is very human-looking, and it has been created so that we can actually make our appearances in the Milky Way to people, and they will no longer be afraid. So, my greeting is, of course, in my language. Sitam te la kamohi tia hanno keter motitera. With an oral and a timal la ticotumenetatorna. Win an banner and you totomat till nemaketota haditsahonda. It is a greeting, and I will at another time translate for you. But for the moment, we will now speak of questions that you may have from the work that we have done previously and what is ahead. So does anyone have a question?
Yes. Hello, Andromeda Val.
Hello, my dear. Thank you.
May we have understanding about ancient Lemuria and law that fits with the information about Atlan, the Venusians volunteering to live on the planet Earth for 300,000 years before the fall from the 5th dimension to the 3rd dimension, when we then lost easy contact with the star people.
Thank you, my dear, and that is a good question. People often question or ask why it is we cannot communicate easily, we as star people and with the earth people. And it has a lot to do with layers of consciousness. And of course also that the human communicates through a voice box, which most of, I would say all of the star people communicate mind to mind, or telepathy as you would describe it. And so that is why we use different mediums, such as Valerie, to be able to speak and communicate with the human. And we enjoy that. But it takes a little adjustment and practice and changing of energies to match each other so that that communication can take place. Having said that, you are asking about Lemuria, which was a time that existed even before what is known as the time of Atlantis, or the Atlan people, Atlantean people, and we did discuss that in our meeting last time. So I would say there were a time of Lemurians that were really, shall I say, raised in consciousness that were more from the indigenous people that really had this deep understanding of that they had come from the stars in the first place. And they always lived and worked and communicated telepathically with the star people and followed guidance very clearly from that point. So they were operating very successfully that way before the Atlantean people came. But they intermingled and knew of each other and worked with each other. They did not argue or raise weapons, and so they lived harmoniously. And it would be very nice to see the humans living that way again. But again, because it has fallen now into a layer of consciousness that makes it hard to understand that in actual fact all humans have come from other places. They have all come from, so we say, the extraterrestrial area, which is just outside your Earth. If I will remind you, the Earth is, as recalled, is called terrestrial. Anything outside of it is extraterrestrial. So it's that simple. There may be one thing in some people's mind as an ET, but really it is extraterrestrial, and it requires, and it also a knowledge and understanding that there are many star people, many races out there, and many layers of consciousness, some not as understanding as others. From Andromeda, you are communicating with people that are understanding and are wanting to help the little human upon this planet, because as I have said before, Andromeda is the place that created your planet Earth in the first place. And when the human form took place, it has always tried to assist its evolution. And we have been down that track in speaking about that also. So the Lemurians, as I would say, are very loving, compassionate people. They lived quietly. They lived with direction from the star people. They did agriculture. They looked after the land, the earth, and they honored all nature that was upon the planet, and still do. They also, many of them, still had the ability to communicate telepathically with each other, even on this planet, until it fell to the fourth dimension and then the third dimension, which limited everything very severely. But we'll talk about that more if you would like. But I would like to suggest that the Lemurian were people that you would more or less find on islands in the Pacific and other Asian races. They just have this natural understanding of being part of your planet, Earth, and also their skin is a little darker, and that helps them to handle the hot sun, which does exist upon your Earth. Other races from other worlds cannot cope with the sun. It's a little too hot for them. But that is another story that was told in the story that was given to you and known as Altulinga, when the first ancestors were created, and it was 900,000 years ago in your time, because time, we have always worried about giving a time, in that from us or star people, different time, different measurements are slightly different, or quite a lot different at times. So I'm using that word doubly in a way. However, I hope that answers your question about the Lemurian people. They were human and very much in tune with your planet and its consciousness, and the consciousness also of every form, flora and fauna upon your planet. They knew and understood about the consciousness that existed in everything and was from the source of all creation, so they honored that also. And they had God beings. In speaking of words, they recognized in different ways from evolutions in the past, but they still understood that in a way the source of all creation is a force field, And coming from that place, it creates people that evolve in that level. I don't like to use the word level. I'd say another layer of consciousness where there is wisdom, and they are the people that you would call God beings. So is there anything else you would like to ask there, my dear?
Oh, yes, please. Talking of the reptilian races, are there reptilian races still living in the middle of our Earth? And if so, what is to happen to the humans and the planet Earth?
That is a good question, and it is relevant. The reptilian races, along with others very similar, I would refer to as cold-blooded, but that's not a judgment. It's just that they lived in a corner of your galaxy that was quite cold, and warm blood would not have been able to handle for them to live in this corner, this arm of your galaxy. And so that was one of the reasons, of course, that the hierarchy from which we govern all that happens upon your planet from Andromeda chose ways to help and assist what was taking place upon this planet, with always for the good of all, not just the few. Understand that it's always been for the good of all. So yes, the reptilians people do exist, and they do live in a layer of, can I say, within the planet surface, just slightly below it, and they live and come and go, not easily seen by the human with their eye in the third dimension, as you are now, or moving into the fourth dimension, you're starting to be more aware. But they keep to themselves, and that is an agreement, because there were too many wars and arguments about who owned your planet, Earth. And so that has been resolved, although they lived separately and they were left alone. So does that give some sense to you that yes, they do, and they are not going to harm the humans that live in a slightly raised consciousness level and at the Earth level as well. The humans live on the surface, the reptilian people live slightly below the surface. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they come and go, and neither interfere or worry or interrupt or anything that's going to cause problems. However, there's always individuals, the same as you have on the Earth planet for humans. There are those that still like to create and cause mischief, and that exists within the race of reptilian. But I hasten to say also that it does exist in other races within the star worlds, but nothing so serious that great wars are fought anymore. So does that answer your question, my dear?
Yes.
As far as the humans go, they need not worry at all.
Okay.
So can I suggest another question?
Yes. Are there still wars happening in the universe between some races from the stars? And do the reptilian races, the Draco Hierarchy, still believe they own the Earth? Which I believe you've answered that one.
They, I really just, I think, answered that question in some ways. There are no more wars in the universe, no. Not in this universe. However, and that has been worked out for quite some time to achieve that, and an agreement. And so I will remind people, I think I have spoken about this before, how there is a united planetary nation which gather from many races that come from a benevolent point of living and speaking and doing. And it is what was put into, or helped put in the minds of people that were willing to create the United Nations that you have upon this planet, for the same thing, to invite all the different races, although they all come from the human race, to actually gather, speak with each other, try to understand each other. If there were differences, to come to agreements, and never to raise weapons at each other. It hasn't always happened that way, but there is an effort and work at reducing the amount of weapons used upon your planet. And one of the reasons, it is one of the reasons that the star people have not come too readily. They do come, but they do not show themselves. And that is possible for them, particularly the benevolent beings. So I would say that there are always benevolent beings looking after the human race. And each being that is born upon this earth with a soul has a specific angelic, if I say that, or a celestial being that is here to help them and always look after them, take care of them. But of course, because of the separation that exists upon your planet, things do happen. It is difficult to live here. Many star people would agree with that. Not all want to come, but when they do come, particularly from the cold-blooded races, they want to learn. They want to have that warmth. They want to have that and really experience the love of the source of, or God, if you like, of all. And so, is there anything else there that you would like me to expand on?
No, just a different question.
Right. That is good, my dear. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I welcome these interaction of questions that take place, and I hope that my answers do help people. I'm not trying to tell people that something must be done, but of course there is a need for people to come to understand each other and to respect each other and their differences. Quite often the differences are really not so different. It's just a matter of changing the way the words are expressed, and if they rephrase and say something different, sooner or later they find really it's all leading to the same place, which is, of course, the source of all creation. Others would call it God. It is not a religion, it is science, although religions do refer to God. So I thank you, my dears. Thank you, thank you, thank you. God be with you, and peace be upon your earth. Thank you.